For games to get players and fame in the infinitely changing ocean that is interest, each must strive to set itself apart from the others. There are many ways to go about this, but one of the more common ones is to add new features, concepts, or ideas into your game. Now, some of these features can be hard to master, but when achieved, very rewarding. There's one game in particular that not only took many challenging features under its wing, but nailed them all perfectly. This game is Titanfall 2. Now, on top of this already very promising and fulfilling game, it was backed by a huge and well-known company, and its graphics were great. But even though the road to success was paved with clean gold from there on, Titanfall 2 faded away before it could achieve the fame it's not only sure to achieve, but keep. Now, how could a game like this die? In this video, I hope to answer just that. What happened to Titanfall 2? Released in late 2016, Titanfall 2 was already very popular. As the first game did well, there was a few minor problems that players pointed out and wanted fixed in the upcoming Titanfall 2. Most of these problems were more to the "this game is so good we need more of it" aka story side of things. And EA, the big company behind Titanfall 2, picked up on this and made sure the upcoming installment would have everything and more. And to say that Titanfall 2 didn't fulfill all expectations and go even further beyond would be a huge misunderstanding. Titanfall 2 is arguably one of, if not the greatest first-person shooters ever. Remember me talking about how important adding new features to stand out is? Well, Titanfall 2 not only added new features, but added the hardest yet most forgiving ideas. And on top of that, they nailed them all perfectly. Mechs pose a big problem when adding them in a game. Are they going to be overpowered? How are you going to be handled in general? And Titanfall 2 executed it perfectly. Fast-paced gameplay is a really hard one. Many games and companies have tried their luck in making a more faster-paced game, and almost all of them have failed to varying degrees. It's a really big challenge. The animation has to be smooth, the movement in general has to be very polished, and on top of trying fast-paced gameplay, Titanfall 2 added wall running, which poses an even bigger threat on a big threat. And once again, Titanfall 2 dunked it. And one more time, I promise. Story. For first-person multiplayer shooters, story is a grueling task on its own, as online games aren't known for story and it doesn't focus on story. So most of the time it's a mess. Modern Combat 5 is the first-person shooter I ever played. It holds a special place in my heart as I still to this day remember exactly what the weather was like outside and what was happening in the house. It's a more online multiplayer shooter focused franchise, but they tried story mode, and I will admit, it was boring and not interesting. It wasn't bad, but it was just not what you'll get when you play Star Wars Jedi Fallen Order, because Star Wars Jedi is a game that focuses on story, not multiplayer. As requested from fans of the first Titanfall game, Titanfall 2 had a story mode that rocked. It also achieved a gripping story that will make you think about it for years to come. Everybody will remember this scene, everyone will remember this scene, and everyone will remember this scene too. Titanfall's story has some of those scenes. So not only did Titanfall 2 take in several ideas and concepts, but they took in very challenging yet rewarding concepts and nailed them perfectly. So, how could Titanfall 2 die? The answer to this isn't like the other situations we've covered in other videos. Titanfall 2 didn't die because it was born out of time or born into a more competitive environment. It died because of EA. There are, granted, several smaller reasons it started to fade, but the biggest was the company behind it and more importantly, the decisions they made. Now, guys, the situation is already very sad, how a game like this could be left in the dust. But when I give you a couple of these decisions EA made, oh my gosh, guys, it's almost unbelievable. Seriously, no offense to EA, but man, I've seen babies make wiser decisions than these. The biggest of them all being the release date. Now, it's very important to set a good date for anything to launch. Games, movies, TV shows, all of it. The release date of Titanfall 2 had to be one of the busiest months in game history. Of course, that's exaggerating a bit, but you get the point. The first-person genre is a very big category of games. That's a fact. Imagine releasing your game in the same week as one of the biggest first-person shooter franchises ever. Battlefield. Now, of course, it wasn't a week, but you get the point. Not only Battlefield, but several other very large games. Some of the games were so big that they even made a threat from other genres. Some of which are EA games. Guys, please, do you hear me right now? This sucks. Titanfall was a game that reached pretty good success. Players loved it and they asked for another, with story, and it was perfectly executed. but the release date really killed it. Now, of course, this isn't the only reason, but it's a really big one. And it's so sad to see a beloved game that perfectly executed several challenging concepts fade off due to very immature decisions made behind the scenes. Now, there have been rumors of a Titanfall 3, which is very exciting, though EA rejected all these. But by the time that actually comes out, if it does, everybody will already be playing Elden Ring. That's right, baby. 5th video in a row. 6 is next. Elden Ring is the lord of all video games. So what do you think? Such a promising game that was, let's face it, cheated out of glory. If you have any future video suggestions, feel absolutely free to leave them down below. I hope you have a great rest of the day, and remember, life is short. Play great games. In the infinitely changing sea that is interest in video games, each game must set itself apart from the others to stand out. Games that stand out get popular and maybe even stay popular. Now, when we narrow it down to a more specific genre, we get an expansive field of games all trying to stand out. In Battle Royale's case, we get a field of different games and companies all trying their luck on a new and unique take on the genre. But there's one game among them all that in my mind stands out